It is 6:02 on March 2nd, March 3rd. March 3rd, 2020. I'm going to go ahead and call this special meeting to order. Jennifer, will you please take the roll? Here.
Ellison.
Present.
Here.
Rizo.
Here.
Villalobos.
Present.
Here.
It is now time for citizens' comments. Anybody wishing to come up and speak may do so. Do we have anybody coming forward for citizens' comments? All right, if no one's going to come up for citizens' comments, I will close citizens' comments. Item number 3, executive session, Councilmember Shield.
Pursuant to Chapter 551 Texas Government Code, the City Council reserves the right to convene into executive session from time to time as deemed necessary during this meeting. The City Council may convene into executive session pursuant to any lawful exception contained in Chapter 551 of the Texas Government Code, including any or all of the following topics: pending or contemplated litigation, or to seek the advice of the city attorney pursuant to Section 551.071, Green Trails HOA, 104 South Burleson Street, Transportation Agreement. Convene into executive session pursuant to Section 551.087 Texas Government Code to deliberate regarding the offer of economic incentives to one or more business prospects that the city seeks to have locate, stay, or expand in or near the city, 104 South Burleson Street.
We are now in executive session.
Mitchell,
Here.
Coach,
Here.
Ellison,
Present.
Shield,
Here.
Rizzo,
Here.
Villalobos,
Present.
Tobias.
Here.
All right, 7 members present. We have a quorum. Next up, approval of the minutes.
Mayor, I'd like to make a motion to approve the minutes of October the 1st, 2019, council minutes, October the 4th in 2019, the city council special meeting minutes for October the 8th, and the special meeting minutes for October the 15th.
Second.
It's been moved by the mayor, seconded by Councilmember Shields. Is there any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries 7-0. Next up, citizen comments period. At this time, we ask anyone in the audience who wishes to come forward and speak on any item to please do so. We ask that you limit your comments to 3 minutes and that you direct those comments to the mayor and council. We also ask that you fill out a citizen comments form and submit it to either myself or the city secretary. I have 3 filled out right now. I'll call those forward as soon as I get my papers unstuck. First up, Mr. Michael Kloss.
Good evening. Thank you for the opportunity to address this council. First of all, thank you for what you do. I know it's not easy. It's hard. You can't please everybody all the time. And what I'm about to present is and I hope that everyone will take it as a positive and something that will help the city of Kyle and his future. I had presented some pictures. I don't know if they would be available over here. But what I am trying to propose, and that is what I'm doing, proposing that city council begin and implement a get Kyle clean and keep Kyle clean. You'll have to excuse me. I do have a little speech impediment, okay? I suggest this program be authorized, managed, directed by the city manager, and that each Kyle city councilman or member give the city manager their full support and authorization, making known to each city agency, administration, department head, offices, area businesses, nonprofit organizations, and each citizen the importance of this program. To my knowledge and experience, the appearance and the self-help projects of programs that a city shows is a direct factor in the quality of life, their bond rating, successful grant requests, not to mention the marketing for the present and future growth, development of businesses, festivals, city functions, overall well-being of the citizens. These are some recent photos of areas that are within view and actually are within 1.5 miles of this very facility. They are across the street and or adjacent to the city swimming pool, Craig City Park and Fields, and Wallace Middle School. What a negative sight for the people who drive down Center Street to these areas. For the many children who are in that middle school, who are in their development stages of what this city is and how their future is going to be. The teachers, the prospective residents, as well as the many prospective new residents, current residents, future subdivisions, and developments in the adjacent areas. Most of these areas have been here since I've been here, and it's over a year and a half. I haven't seen any action taken. So I think that it's for the citizens, directed by you, for the businesses, nonprofit agencies, to have a self-help program so that we, as a city, can help those who can't help themselves. And at the same time, make it easy on some of the departments by cleaning up the areas ourselves. But we need the leadership and the development, and that's what I think this program can be. I thank you for your time, and I appreciate if I could do something else. I have a copy of it here if you'd like it. My number is available. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Claus. Well, I thought I had a few more. Is there anyone else in the audience who wishes to come forward and speak?
And I don't know if I was correct, but if you're going, if you really want to see it, all you need to do is head west on Center Street from Front Street to Stagecoach.
Thank you. Is there anyone else in the audience who wishes to come forward and speak? Ms. Diana.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Director of Economic Development, Diana Torres, for the record. I'm here this evening to introduce to you our new staff member, our Economic Development Coordinator to you. If I could get Lauren Lyons to come join me. Lauren may be a familiar, friendly face to some or most of you all. Lauren is a previous City of Kyle employee. Lauren comes to us with a wealth of knowledge from Public Works and Building Department and is very excited and enthusiastic to jump over to the economic development world now, and has brought some real excitement and enthusiasm to the team, and has really kind of energized the team, and we're really excited to have her on our team. We have hit the ground running as a team of 3 now. Have already had lengthy department work sessions where I have basically locked us in a room together last week, and we really worked really hard on prioritizing and strategizing on projects and some tasks that we really want to work really diligently on over the next several months. And we'll get back with you all on more details on those once we get those kind of massaged some more. But we're really excited to get going, and we have some really big ideas and visions for what we want to accomplish over the next number of months, and wanted to introduce Lauren to you all.
That's incredible. So unless there's an objection, I'm going to suspend the rules of council and open it up for comments if there's anyone who wishes to say anything. Councilor Ellison.
Yes, I think this is exciting. Thank you for taking the time to introduce in our growing Team Kyle family, and welcome back. I think that's really awesome that you're going to bring experience from our building and public works departments to our economic development team. And I think it's awesome that you brought some energy. Maybe Diana and Victoria just worn down from it just being them two for a while. So maybe it's a little bit of that. But we're really excited about what our economic development department has done so far, and everything I've heard from Diana and our conversations we've had one-on-one. You're a great asset to the team. So we're excited to have you. Thank you for taking the time to introduce us. We always appreciate, even if they're familiar faces, being introduced in front of the council and therefore in front of the city. But welcome.
Councilor Shield.
Welcome back. And yes, we have worked together on a couple of different, things. So I look forward to working with you in the future. And yes, welcome back. It's very good to have you back. Thanks.
I just want to say, I know you've been very active in the community because I see you everywhere, and I'm pretty much everywhere. So as a neighbor, I just want to say welcome. Just letting you know that her dad used to have one of the top co-ed softball teams in the area. And the reason I know that is because he used to whoop up on my team. The only one that could beat my team, so welcome.
Anyone else? Welcome indeed. It's great to see our economic development department growing. Diana was just recently at a very prestigious event where the city of Kyle was a part of some awards that are statewide, recognizing economic development initiatives and growth of certain types of jobs. And so we're just very, very thankful for the department. I can't imagine how you've been able to succeed with 2 people in a growing city like this, but but you've done it in a profound fashion. And so, Lauren, you're walking into one of the best economic development departments anywhere around. And so we look forward to seeing what you guys work together and bring forward. So, Anyone else? All right, thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right, is there anyone else who wishes to come forward and speak? All right, seeing none, I'm going to go ahead and close citizen comments period. It's now closed. Next up, appointments to the Economic Development and Tourism Board. Eddie Brown and Colby Machaud, reappointment. You changed, Diana. Sorry.
Good evening, Mayor, Council. Hope everybody's well tonight. And to those on the ballot, tonight's ballot, good luck.
Yeah.
So tonight I'm here. Again, my name is Brian Ziegler. I'm Chair of the Economic Development Board for the City of Kyle. I'm here seeking appointment of Eddie Brown to fill the vacant industry seat and the reappointment of Colby Machaud for the citizen seat. I assume, it's my understanding, all of you received bios on each of these candidates. Is that correct?
It's in the material, yes.
Okay, good. All right, so I won't go into a lot of detail. But, Colby has been a great asset to the board. Not only does he add perspective from a citizen standpoint, but he also adds perspective from a manufacturing standpoint, as he's the accounting manager for Ember Industries, which they manufacture circuitry boards and things like that out of San Marcos. And Eddie Brown, I've known Eddie Brown for several years, and he is actually building a warehouse just north of the Alsco building in the HPI development. It's a 60,000 square foot building. He is here tonight, but he has done, he's gracefully offered his time to serve the community, and he's very excited to do so. So at this time, I will open up to any questions, and if you guys have any questions for Eddie, again, he is here.
Any questions for Mr. Ziegler?
In council, the bios of both candidates are in the backup material.
Right.
Mayor,
Councilman Shield.
I'd like to make a motion to approve the appointments of Eddie Brown and Colby Machaud to the Economic Development and Tourism Board.
Second.
All right, it's been moved by Councilmember Shields, seconded by Councilmember Rizzo. Is there any further discussion? I know Colby's been on the board now for 3 years.
3 years.
Yeah, and he's been doing a fantastic job. So thank you, Mr. Brown. I can't quite see you back there, but thank you for being willing to volunteer. And that board is growing, and the membership is really providing a lot of valuable insight and feedback to this board, as well as just representing the city of Caldwell. So thank you for your willingness to serve and participate in that way. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries 6-0. All right. Next up, another very special moment, TMLDA award by our venerable library director, Mr. Paul Phelan.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Honorable Mayor and Council, for the record, I'm Paul Phelan, the Director of Library Services at the Kyle Public Library. And it is my pleasure to report to you all tonight that the Kyle Public Library has been awarded for the 4th year in a row the Texas Municipal Library Directors Association Achievement and Excellence Award. That's a mouthful right there. And it is the 4th year that we have been able to get that. Out of 571 public library systems, 53 earned this award this year. So I think that we're doing pretty well in terms of the company that we're in. To be considered for the award, there are some serious criteria that you have to meet and demonstrate proof of that. And as we've talked about raising the bar and achieving a gold standard, I do think that moving forward that this award demonstrates that. And it would be something I think we should look to do each and every year if possible. So of those 10 criteria, services to underserved populations, that may be an example, our sensory motor program for youngsters, bilingual story time, perhaps programs that are for minority populations and celebrating their accomplishments, enhanced service through increase in services. So what they look for is that you change your package each year. You look at your customers, you talk to your customers, and you come up with some new stuff. So part of that built in is to do that. Another component is to market. And to, a lot of libraries, like government sometimes, and I think we can all appreciate this, we work hard and do a lot of stuff, but we don't always have the greatest marketing plans in place, Of course, this city's taken some big strides in that area in recent years, and very recently, of course. but that's also, of course, very important with library services. Providing cultural, topical, and educational programming. An example might be the Mayan art program, Master Gardeners, and various things like that. Literacy support for all ages. So when you're looking at all the various story times, starting from the baby lap sit type programs all the way up through to our ESL programs, for example, for everybody. A robust summer reading program, which I do look forward to having the biggest one we've had this coming year. I think it's going to be huge. Collaborative efforts. So again, you combine with people. You can do, 1 + 1 is going to equal more than 2, right? So we do that quite frequently through the year. Workforce development, digital inclusion. We had upwards of 19,000 digital checkouts this last year, whether it's on our databases or our ebooks, and then maintaining a level of professional staff training. So those are the areas, and it's my pleasure to introduce the staff. Before I do that, though, I did want to mention that we got 2 very important programs coming up. So on March 14th, we are partnering with the Historic Train Depot folks, the New Braunfels model train folks that they have up there that runs their depot, and of course the Kyle Public Library. We'll have a model train set up over there. So between 12 and 6 during the hours of our event, we'll have some train crafts, some games, and we'll have a model train, and the docents will be there giving tours of the facility too. So we're excited about that, March 14th. Also on March 20th, we're having a program called Pause to Read. So each year we have a program during spring break for the kids. So at the suggestion of our advisory board chair, Elizabeth, we changed it up a little bit this year. So we're partnering with Pause over here. We'll have somebody from Hayes ISD talk about the vet tech program. We'll have a local vet who will talk about health care for your pets. We will have pet adoption going on that day. We have a presentation from a therapy dog, a person that engages in that. We'll be talking about that. And then I think that's about it. And of course, we'll have a movie and some various things like that. We always do, kind of round it out with that. And prior to that, we will be doing a food drive for the Pause starting on March 9th that will end on March 21st. So we have all this will all be put online and be marketed, the kinds of things we're looking for that they're looking for over there at the shelter. So those are the 2 programs that we got going on. And if I could just very quickly recognize the library staff. We have Jesus Hernandez right here, Judy Thomas, Lily Coy Johnson, Brisere Torres, Kara Waits, Sandra Bailey, Joel Isla, and I'm not going to forget Michael Lynch right there, Michael Kaufman Lynch. So these are the folks that work extremely hard every day to make these things happen. This is the best team that I've ever been a part of in my 15 years of doing this. So my basic task right now is just to try to keep these folks together as long as I can. That's what I'm going to try to do. And that's all I've got for you.
Wow, that's incredible, Paul. Councilor Ellison.
Yeah, so I love all of our departments in the city. Let me say that first and foremost. But I'm a big fan of what you all are doing at the library. I'm so happy to see everyone here. I know Councilmember Shield and Councilmember Rizo, and there's been others that have come and participated when there's been various events at the library. And I'm always just so in awe and so pleased with the effort that you all put into that. And you can really tell by the programs that you all put on and every interaction that you all are invested in as well. And it seems to be things you all are very interested in. I see the excitement about it. I could probably go through each one of you all where I've watched like a fly on the wall. You all interact with our residents in our community when we have interactions. I remember when y'all had that petting zoo. What event was that where they had the indoor petting zoo? And they all kind of run together. I'm sorry. But there was one of them where we had the indoor petting zoo, and it was there you go, Fall Festival. Well, it was phenomenal. Everybody's running around doing a great job, and I never forget Judy. The kids were waiting in line to get to the petting zoo, and it was kind of a lengthy line, but she took it upon herself to create a little game and get them all excited, just throwing papers in the air, and it was just, it was unbelievable. And that is just one testament to the true spirit of the entire library team. And so I just want to congratulate you all on this award for the fourth year in a row now. I'm a big fan of what you all are doing. Paul, you're absolutely right. This is a fantastic team. I have to also plug once again, because I think you do a phenomenal job with it, with the emails that you send us about the various programs that you all have been going on in the library. I know for me, it helps a great deal because I plug exactly what you put in the email, and you provide a picture, and I can put it right on Facebook to continue to spread the word about the great programs and efforts you all are doing there. So I thank you for taking the time to do that. I thank you for the efforts you all do. I enjoyed the documentary that you had here recently for Martin Luther King. You all are consciously just always trying to think of ways to engage our citizens. Like you said, from the lap children all the way to our more senior citizens as well. So kudos to you all, well deserved. Thank you all for what you do. Keep up the great work.
Thank you. Thank you. Anyone else? He did. That was quite well. That was profound, actually, insight there. So, what he said. Thank you all very much.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you.
Now, I believe we're going to have a photo. So, if we can bring our library staff up to the front, please. Thank you. All right, next up, Heroes Memorial Park update. This is by the task force. Anything to add?
Yes. We've been doing some, we've definitely been doing some work on this. A few of the updates we have. With Nudge Design, the firm, just to remind everyone, the firm that we, as a council, decided to hire to design this memorial that will be going around the retention pond at the corner of Kohlers and 1626 near the PAC Center. We hired Nudge Design, and they've hit the ground running. They've been a great team led by Philip and his group. We had a Friday morning breakfast session with the VFW, and we also invited some folks from AMVETS as well to be a part of that. It was great. They had their poster boards up there and getting different input from our veterans on whether different wars and conflicts we want to recognize, just getting all kinds of input with different examples that they could talk about. It was really a great morning of reflection and discussion. We also had that following Monday, I believe Councilmember Rizo was there at that one, for the police department, first responders were able to be a part of that and give their input on the memorial. So we're really excited about that. Last Friday, we were able to, Councilmember Rizo and I, Mr. Sellers, and the Nudge Design team were able to meet with the folks at TDS, Texas Disposal System, which you all might remember a few weeks back. We had a big meeting in which they presented us a $1.5 million check, half cash, half in kind for this memorial. And we're really excited about that in-kind part of it because we're going to be reusing and recycling our waste and materials from this city and our school districts in the area to build this memorial. So how exciting is that? And so we had a field trip over there last Friday with the landscape architects and the design team to look at the materials and see what we could really use in that. And I think Philip and the team were really excited about the potential and opportunity there, whether it's from the soil and the trees they have in their tree farm over there that are really well kept, and to the concrete, old steel, and various different things that we could possibly implement in that. And, you know, kind of tagging along to what we even talked about last Thursday at our TERS board meeting was including a lot of low-impact development and green infrastructure into this project and other projects we're doing. So we're also being very mindful of that when it comes to the memorial. We've heard great responses from our veteran community and our first responders community about this. This is still a long road to go. We are going to continue to hold charrettes and town halls in which we can incorporate not only our veterans and first responders input, but our residential community as well. So that's soon to come in the coming months also. Just so everybody knows, a reminder, we are looking to do an unveiling, at least a first phase unveiling on September 11th, 2021, which will be here before we know it. As you all might gather, that is the 20th year anniversary of 9/11. So that's what we're targeting there. We still have a long road ahead of us in order to get to that. Because it will be here before we know it. So we're just trying to do all of our due diligence with as far as the design and input from our community before we get there. Councilmember Rizo, did I miss anything?
I just wanted to elaborate a little bit on the first responders. So when we're talking about the first responders, we're just talking about local law enforcement. We're also talking about DPS officers. We had some constables there as well. Sheriff's Department was represented. The fire, the ESD district was represented well, and we also had a representative from our dispatch. So when we think about first responders, we're not thinking just locally, we're thinking about everybody that serves in this area. So we had a great turnout. All the feedback was positive, and we were really excited to get that big of a turn. I just want to thank Chief for getting that together. I mean, to have everybody there was amazing, and for everybody just to be on the same page, I think that has to go back with you, giving them a little information ahead, and I thought the meeting went well, so thank you, Chief.
Thank you. Anything else? I'll tell a little story. I was voting at the admin building, or actually the transportation building, and there was a man standing behind me who was 60. He called himself one of the youngins, which I thought was interesting. He just struck up this conversation with me, did not know who I was. And I was wearing a suit voting at 6, but he said that his father passed away, killed in action in Vietnam when he was 4 years old. His mother didn't remarry and raised him and his 2 brothers. He just brought up that he drives to a Vietnam memorial every so often where his father is memorialized, and was floored when I told him that we were getting ready to construct a Veterans Memorial right here in Kyle, and explained what that is. So the word will get out as we get closer and closer, and even those that I think that don't know what we're doing, once it happens, are going to be very happy. It was really a moving conversation. So anyway, thank you all for your hard work. Those are some fantastic updates. That's really great. Thank you, Chief. Anything else to add? All right. Next up, task force update on police headquarters construction.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. Jeff Barnett, Chief of Police, for the record. I'll be very brief. We have 2 brief updates from our task force. Number 1, the RFP for the CM at risk, the construction manager at risk that the council authorized at a recent meeting, has been properly noticed to the public and is publicized on our city website. We also shared that with the print media. So that's out there for those companies that are interested in providing those services. We have several weeks to go on that, but we'll report back once we get some companies in. The second thing is that the RFP that was authorized by City Council for a company to provide public education and outreach for our memorial that you just spoke about and the police facility in the future. The end date has come, and we've received several submittals. The committee today was provided those submittals this afternoon, and they're going to take those into advisement, and then we have a schedule coming accordingly for them to make a recommendation to council in a few weeks. And that's it.
Thank you, Chief.
Thank you.
Any feedback, questions? All right. Next up, CIP road projects and consent agenda presentation. Mr. Barba.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Leon Barba, City Engineer. Usually I like to bring you a lot of the good stuff that happens in our projects. Today I have a couple items that are not good, but I'll share those with you as we get to them. The Lehman Road project, we did update that estimate. We're 53% complete. The bridge at Plum Creek is about 40% complete. What you see in the picture is where they are today with the bridge structure. The next bullet item on there is one of the problems that we're having right now with the section from 150 back to Masonwood. As I mentioned at our last meeting, we had problems with the hot mix that was placed back earlier this year. Typically, your ranges and your air content in your hot mix, I'm getting technical on you now, but typically it's between 3 to 8.5% more or less. Depends on the mix that you use. This particular mix that they use, there was 2 layers of what we call type B as in boy. And there was a 3-inch lift, and then there was a second 3-inch lift. We took about 17 cores on that section because right after it was placed, it started potholing. It averaged around 8.9% of air voids, and that's not a good thing to have in hot mix. That causes the durability goes down. You lose your life of your road that way. The water gets in there when it freezes, and it causes problems with your mix. So that's not a good thing. Is it possible to have too little air in asphalt? Yes, it is. You need to have a little bit of air in there to give it a little bit of flexibility. So the range is typically 3 to 8.5%. We've met with the contractor. The intent right now is to mill out the top 3 inches of that mix. There's about 1,000 feet of it, starting at 150. That lower lift is marginal or questionable right now. So once we peel that top layer off, we're going to look at that and see if that needs to come out too. If it does, then the whole 6 inches will be coming out and will be replaced at no cost to the city. There's another section that we're also looking at further north of that. We're still looking at some tests on that, waiting for a few tests to come back on that, so there may be additional work. At the next meeting, I'd like to bring you probably just a map showing you the limits of the work that we're going to do that today. Now, we plan to hopefully start milling on the 18th, but we're kind of saying between the 16th and 20th. So we'll start advertising our project there that we're going to close down that road, say about the 11th of March. So we'll give people plenty of time to know that will be closed on that section. Again, we're still trying to complete this project by August of 2020. Burleson Street, we're still at 74%. We don't have the latest estimate yet. Senator Rodriguez is open to local traffic only with workers in that section. There's some pavement distresses occurring on Schlemmer and Live Oak. There's some groundwater that's been encountered. Typically what you do is you take bores when you're going to rebuild a project, and they did discover there was a water table in that area, in those areas, but it was deep enough, so we didn't really think we'd have an issue. But lately, the water table has been very high in that area, so we have some pavement that's starting to crack open. So our engineer's been looking at it. We're also asking the consultant to look at it, and we've got a testing lab involved, so there may be some additional work that we have to do to make sure we solve that problem. But again, it appears to be underground water coming up from that area. Of course, that area is known as Spring Branch, and so that obviously tells you what's happening out there. The water is there, but the water table's high. North of Rodriguez, south of the roundabout is closed. Burleson north of the roundabout is open to local traffic only. The utility crew that's working there is about 50% complete, so they're almost finished with that section of utility, so they can start fixing the road there. Union Pacific Railroad work is complete. We still expect to complete this in June of 2020.
Real quick on Burleson, real quick.
Yes.
We still have one more top coat to go over all the whole street.
That's correct, yes.
That's why we have the humps in the middle of the street, correct?
That is correct.
Okay.
Again, we need to fix that issue on the underground water there before we put that last coat on there.
Right.
There was a question also concerning, let me go back a little bit. About the detention pond, there's an event coming up at the church in Naples, their Easter event. And so our project manager has directed the contractor to get the grass in as quickly as possible and graded a little bit better. So we're working on that. There's 3 consent items on the agenda. Let me talk about it. Number 11. This is for the Southside Wastewater Improvements Project. We were about 45% complete on this project. If you recall, we had some issues with utilities being in the right-of-way on the I-35 frontage road, so we had to relocate those lines. The additional services pay for some of the work that they did to help us with preparation for trying to figure out what new alignments were. We also asked them to look at some other issues that we had with some of the properties that we're working on, and we also looked at, for example, we looked at trying to add an additional wet well. The project we're working on right now is called Phase 1, but there's a Phase 3, which is much, much later. So we thought about adding an additional wet well there that's required as part of Phase 3, but the cost was too much for the change order, so we backed off of that. But again, we asked the consultant to look at those costs and what it would take to do that additional wet well, so we backed off of that. Again, this is for future work. Once we get those easements in place, then they're going to need to design the new sections of line, so we can go ahead and have the contractor build that section. The contractor is still busy. They're still working, and we plan to start bores on I-35 pretty soon. We have 4 bores under I-35. He's already completed his bore under the railroad tracks, so we've got 4 more bores to go. On item number 12, Stateside Right-of-Way is our consultant on that. They've had to spend extra time because of some difficulties in working with the adjacent landowners that we needed the easements from, and there was one title issue on one of them, so we're still working trying to get those trying to acquire those easements. On consent agenda, item number 10, goes to Burgess and Nipple. They are the engineer of record that designed this project, so we need them to continue working on this project to handle any requests for information, the submittals that are going to be coming in concerning the materials and specifications of the equipment that we use. They need to look at those, and they will be attending meetings, and they will give us the final letter of completion whenever that project's completed. Our contractor is going to be given a notice to proceed on April 13th of 2020, so the project's about to start. I put these under substantially completed. We're still trying to wrap up the punch list items, but for all practical purposes, these projects are complete. And I'm available for any questions.
Thank you, Leon. Any questions for Leon? I'm growing skeptical about the August 2020 for laymen. Are you working on contingency plans for school starting back up in the event that we're not there? Or do you think it'll be open enough for it to
we think it will be close. It's going to be close, Mayor. It's going to be very close.
Okay. Well, I'm glad you're staying on them, because obviously when we're spending millions on a brand new road, and I'm hearing it sounds like horror stories to me, honestly. Just, makes me a little nervous about our contractors. So I have a lot of faith in you, though. So please stay on them. Please make sure that road gets installed correctly.
Will do.
Anything else?
I would second that thought, as well as with the wastewater treatment plant. And I'm glad we have Yvonne on board as well to watch for those change orders. I think I'm probably speaking for everybody when I say our stomachs kind of turn when we see those, but trying to keep those at a minimum and just making sure that our contractors are doing what they're supposed to be doing out there.
I mean, it's going to be a lot easier to fix it now, and we have a lot more leverage than 6 months or 16 months down the road, and they're long gone, packed up, and move. And right now is when they haven't gotten their final check, and they're there.
That's correct.
And you have the control, so please use it.
Yes, we have.
You are.
We typically have 10% retainage too. So.
Right. Thank you.
So, yeah, really do your diligence once they take that top layer off to check that bottom layer and make sure we're not going to have an issue down the road. So thank you for staying on this, Leon. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Leon. All right. Next up, consent agenda.
Mayor,
Councilor Ellison.
I'd like to make a motion that we pass the consent agenda as written, items 10, 11, 12, and 13.
Okay, it's been moved by the mayor. It's been moved by Councilmember Ellison, seconded by Councilmember Shield, the mayor pro tem of last year. Huh. I could have saved it. Is there any further discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed. Motion carries 6-0. Next up, agenda item number 14, consider and possible action. Consider a subdivision waiver request from Evo Entertainment for section 41-13 to allow certain commercial lots to not have public street frontage. Mr. Coons.
Evening, Mr. Mayor, Council. My name is Howard Kuntz. I'm the Community Development Director for the record. We're all familiar with Evo Entertainment and its location north of Kohlers, right at the I-35 southbound frontage road. Currently, if you look at the attachments that are on the staff memo in your packet, you can see that it is one lot that primarily fronts the road to the west. What they seek to do with this is create a 4-lot subdivision where one lot would remain parking and the actual structure itself that exists, and they will have 3 pad sites that are on the east side of the property that they can market and sell off separately, fee simple. So we do have a requirement that all lots created, both commercial and residential, have public right-of-way frontage. And in this instance, they've sought a waiver to that requirement such that they can create these lots and then have interparcel access between them via driveways. Staff did an analysis, couldn't find any harm to the community, to the health, safety, and welfare of the community for this project, so we would support that request.
All right, any questions for Mr. Coons?
Just
Mr. Rizzo.
just one question real quick. In event of an emergency, say a fire or something, are we gonna have enough public access, exits out of the property?
Yes, that will be a requirement by code.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions, comments, motions?
Mayor, I'd like to make a motion to approve the waiver request from Evo Entertainment for section 41136B to allow certain commercial lots to not have public street frontage.
Second.
All right, it's been moved by Councilmember Shields, seconded by Councilmember Rizzo. Is there any further discussion? There are some other examples on frontage and some of those power center type projects where very similar measures have taken place, right?
Yeah,
Like in
this
Buda, I
one-
think, is doing something very similar right now.
This one's unique in that the entire development project is pushed to the west and effectively takes access from the right-of-way to the west, yet faces the east. So that's why, in the example you're talking about, you're right. It is typical, usual and customary to have pad sites, which are fee simple, separate lots entirely, from the power center site. So this is ideally the same. They're just waiting for the rest of this property to come together with the Endeavor project, and then it'll be tied together with interparcel access, and no one will know what's public and what's private because it all functions the same at the end of the day.
Okay. Councilor Ellison.
Mr. Coots, part of your analysis states that Evo Entertainment is overparked per city code. Could you elaborate on that? And then I may have a follow-up question.
Okay, the city of Kyle has a standard for parking that is formulated 2 ways. In some instances, it's a requirement by the zoning district. So a certain district will require a certain number of parking spaces per square foot. Sometimes it's done by the use. So in the instance of, say, a restaurant, you have 1 parking space for each 4 places to sit and eat. We also have a maximum. So we have the minimum requirement that's based upon the ratio of floor area to parking spaces, but we also have a maximum of 1.5% of that minimum. So the Evo is wildly overparked in that the number of parking spaces they have, especially to the east, makes them have more parking than they are allowed. So even subdividing this does not create a nonconformity in that they can still operate that use and be actually closer to being in conformance than they are now.
Thank you for that explanation. Yeah, I guess I don't really particularly have a question. For me, anytime we're adding impervious pavement, more concrete on the ground, I just think of how I would like eventually for our city to move towards some more permeable pavements and parking structures and things like that. But hopefully we can start to set that precedent here in the near future. But
we have a provision in our impervious surface ordinance and as it relates to parking that pervious concrete, or whatever the improved it is, but pervious improved surfaces are permissible. They do count as an improved surface, and the requirement for parking is that you have to park on an improved surface. They do count for improved surfaces, and
it creates somewhat of a density bonus in impervious surface for the lot because we don't count pervious pavement as being impervious surface. If they truly are designed in such a way that they capture and collect stormwater and then distribute that much the same way that a septic would percolate into the soil, if it can do the same thing and doesn't necessarily need to be pumped out, then that counts as pervious surface. The challenge is it's not always very financially advantageous to do that much of an expense. You have to have a property that has truly few other options before it becomes attractive to most of the development community. In this instance, most of the impervious surface that you see in the attachments will be, for lack of a better term, grandfathered. So they'll be able to capture that amount of impervious surface and use that towards their development densities whenever these 3 parcels are developed at some point in the future.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Coons.
All right, any other questions, comments? All right, we already have a motion on the floor, so I'll call a vote now. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed? Motion carries 6-0. All right, next up, agenda item number 15, consider possible action to direct staff to initiate certain sign code amendments. This is something that has plagued me and dogged me for about 4 years now. I, at one point, tried to do a rewrite of the sign ordinance and went through the process and started realizing that if I continued moving forward, there's a possibility that the entire code the entire sign ordinance might get out of hand or get out away from us, where we have the potential to cause more harm than good or to have different effects than what was intended. But the time has really come to bring it back. There are some questions. My intention is to direct staff to focus on a few different areas. One, cleaning up any inconsistencies within the code where where there may be rules that are not practical or that are not being enforced based on practicality within the city limits. And then second, to try to come up with a feather flag provision that allows for limited feather flags but not unlimited feather flags. Right now, we seem to be oscillating back and forth between those two scenarios. I don't think either of them are the best way to handle something like feather flags. And feather flags are not the big floppy guys with the air. It's supposed to be much more professional. There's scenarios and settings where feather flags make sense, in my opinion. There are some that are not, but I thought it might be good to direct Howard to take it through planning and zoning with that kind of a framework, and to have planning and zoning have that discussion. I don't know what they would come back with, at that point, we would be able to take a look at it, but we can't change the sign code without it going through P&Z anyway. So it made sense to me to, Howard understands. Howard and I have discussed this many times. He knows my mindset, but he and I have had some robust discussions. I've had robust discussions with everyone. I think I've recognized probably that I wouldn't, that the body wouldn't write the sign code the way I would, and therefore me proposing changes may not be the most appropriate way, but rather to let it go through the organic process without me writing in those and having the edits be what are debated. Those are just my thoughts, and wanted to get your feedback. Councilmember Shield.
First of all, thank you, because yes, our sign ordinance does need to be revamped. I know that Scott, Howard, and I have been kind of talking about some of the more specific signs, like the builder kiosk signs that just keep popping up and with only one builder on it, and so that, and also still allowing for the city to be able to put up signs or whatever we need to do without actually and of course I just lost my wording, but without violating the sign ordinance. We've come across that where the city needs to do something and put up a sign, and we're violating the sign ordinance.
The city violates the sign. Well, don't get me started. Okay, go ahead.
But
we do violate the sign ordinance all the time.
And so that's what I just want to make sure that we take that into account as well on
Right.
what the city needs as well.
my hope would be that the sign ordinance would become smaller and clearer, not more complicated, because it's very difficult if you're a business owner to not violate the sign ordinance because of how, well, we'll get there. Feedback? Anybody have an interest in working with Howard on this? Councilmember Shield?
I mean, I'm already kind of been working with them on a little bit of it, so.
We'll give him the, we'll circle up, we'll try to figure out what to do, but I think P&Z has demonstrated that they're very capable of wading through this. This is right in their wheelhouse, so works for me. Any further discussion? All right, I'd like to make a motion to direct staff to initiate certain sign code amendments as discussed just now, and to appoint Councilmember Shield and the mayor to work with staff throughout the process.
And P&Z.
So there's a motion. P&Z will be a part of it, yeah. Okay, it's been motioned by the mayor, seconded by Councilmember Shield. Is there any further discussion? Howard, was that clear? Does that seem like a good path to you? Okay.
Mayor, I'd like to be added to this committee as well.
Okay. I'd like to do a friendly motion to add Councilmember Coach, Mayor Pro Tem Coach, if there's no objection. You agreeable to that, Councilmember Shield? Yes. All right, if there's no further discussion, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries 7-0, 6-0, sorry. Next up is executive session, or do we have a city manager's report?
Mayor, we do have a city manager's report. It got dropped off the agenda.
That agenda, we gotta figure those guys out.
So I did clear with Paige that I'm okay sharing just 3 quick items. One is this Saturday, there is the Great River Cleanup. And that's part of our efforts for our Keep Kyle Beautiful campaign. I believe it starts at 8:30 down at Waterleaf Park. We've done that for 2 years in the past. This will be our 3rd year. So.
Yes, and volunteers need to sign up on the website so that we have enough provisions. So
right,
please
I
sign
believe
up.
that was sent out to council. So if you'd like to disseminate that that sign up sheet, that'd be great. The following Saturday is our Pi Day 3.14, and our Pi Day celebrations downtown. I don't have specifics here. I believe that's basically from 12 to 6 here downtown. There will be activities on the square, and there will also be a model train exhibit at the Rail Depot. So for the community, please come out. Again, as we've done in prior years, we'll have a pi recitation, the number pi. How many digits can you memorize and recite? And then some other PI related events.
A lot of our certified vendors will be out there as well.
Perfect. So that's March 14th coming up very quickly. And again, the community is welcome. The final announcement is we had discussed not having a council meeting on the 17th, as that is spring break. We actually have quite a few items that we need to bring forward. So if the majority of council will be present during spring break, we would ask to have that meeting.
Thoughts? It's going to be tough.
That's going to be a tough one. And one reason is I know quite a few council members are going to be out, including myself. I'd like to see the items that are going to go up on the agenda beforehand, so that way I know whether I got to be here or go on spring break.
Do we have any options to?
We do. We can push it off. I think the biggest is really for the comp plan task force, and the selection of the consultant was on that agenda. If you're all right moving that back another meeting, then that's fine.
For some reason, I thought maybe we had discussed pushing it to the following week, the council meeting. I don't know.
It's listed for the 17th.
Because I thought we said something about the 24th, because I have it on my calendar, that's why.
Yeah, I think that was with the 24th, that was with the TERS or something.
Yes, there is
okay.
Oh, the joint meeting.
Yeah, the joint.
Oh, okay, that's what that is. Okay.
Now, we can also hold a council meeting the week prior and just do a quick meeting on the 10th or the 12th, if you like.
I know I can't do it, but
Or during Pi Day. Right, it's just rough. Or again, we can push that selection process, and we'll just set the agenda internally for the joint meeting.
What do y'all want to do?
I'm available.
I'm available.
I'm available the week of spring break.
I am too.
At least three.
Well, we'll just continue to talk and do some emails. We'll figure it out.
We can keep the agenda as light as possible to hit just those
Okay.
critical items.
Okay.
Thank you. That's what.
Do we still have executive session? Was there an item that's on there that we still need to talk about?
We are good.
All right, anything
Again,
else?
I'd like to get that, whatever's gonna be on that agenda early. That way I'll know whether I'm gonna stay in town or leave.
Yes, sir.
All right.
All right, motion to adjourn.
Second.
All right, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, we are adjourned.